Xiao Chan looked genuinely furious. His jaw was set, his eyes were hard, and he marched forward with steady, forceful steps. Clutched in his hand was a sword made entirely of lightning, bright, chaotic, and crackling with unstable energy. As he stepped into the water, the surface shivered beneath his feet. A nearby water goblin scrambled to retreat, wearing a nervous, forced grin as it backed away through the shallows. In the next moment, Xiao Chan launched the lightning sword with explosive speed. The blade plunged into the water, and immediately, electricity flooded across the entire surface. Lightning raced through every ripple and splash, engulfing the fleeing goblins in one overwhelming surge. Another goblin froze in disbelief as the shockwave hit him. Staring at the crackling weapon, he wondered if it might be a legendary magic item from some higher world. He couldn't understand how a single weapon could produce such devastating force. The lightning continued spreading outward, striking the remaining goblins and wiping them out within seconds. The last surviving goblin stared wide-eyed, confessing that this level of power went far beyond any world-class tool he had ever heard of. A small fire crackled at the center of the area, and beside it sat Lord Water Monster. He looked drained and helpless, his body still weakened from the earlier attack. His chest rose and fell slowly, as though even breathing was a struggle. His eyelids twitched before snapping open fully, shock flooding his expression. As his vision sharpened, he saw Xiao Chan and his maids seated around the fire. They were roasting the water goblins' bodies as casually as if they were cooking everyday food. One surviving goblin shrieked desperately, begging his lord to save him. Xiao Chan took a bite of the roasted meat and commented calmly that the taste wasn't bad, similar to fish, but softer, especially near the waist. He said it intentionally to provoke the last goblin, who trembled with anger. He screamed at them, calling them nothing more than animals, worthless creatures, and demanded they return the lives they had taken from his people. The sight of them eating his own kind filled him with disbelief and rage. He shouted again, cursing wildly. But no matter how hard he tried, his body refused to obey him. He strained against the paralysis, willing his limbs to move, yet they remained stiff and useless. His voice cracked with rising panic and frustration. Xiao Chan approached with Lord Birdman at his side. In Xiao Chan's hand was a small piece of roasted goblin meat, which he held up for Lord Water Monster to see. Lord Water Monster roared in fury, promising to kill him, but his body stayed locked in place. Lord Birdman gazed down at him with a satisfied expression. He reminded Lord Water Monster of all the times he and the Northern Lord had attacked them, invading their territory, tormenting them repeatedly, and slaughtering Birdman's people without hesitation. Now, he said, Lord Water Monster was simply facing the consequences of his own cruelty. Lord Water Monster had no words left. He was overwhelmed with anger and disbelief, unable to accept the sudden shift in power. Behind him, his subordinate water monsters cried out desperately, begging their lord to save them, pleading for help he could no longer give. Lord Water Monster turned his glare toward Xiao Chan and demanded to know why he continued capturing them. His voice trembled as he begged Xiao Chan not to push things any further, repeating himself in utter desperation. He knew he had no strength left to resist. His hatred flared as he stared at Xiao Chan, his eyes burning with rage. With great effort, he forced out a challenge. He told Xiao Chan that if he truly had the guts, he should go ahead and destroy the entire Water Demon clan. Xiao Chan responded with a relaxed smile, completely unfazed. He said he wasn't concerned in the slightest, because the water demons were so pathetically weak that even his own underlings wouldn't bother killing them. He added that they were still useful to him, and that he would personally look after them on Lord Water Monster's behalf. Those words shattered what little composure Lord Water Monster had left. His voice shook as he begged Xiao Chan to spare the others. He insisted that the rest of his clan had nothing to do with their conflict. He begged Xiao Chan to punish him alone and let the rest of the water demons go. But Xiao Chan just kept eating roasted goblin meat, unfazed. He stated plainly that admitting fault was something he would never do because the word sorry simply didn't exist in his vocabulary. Lord Water Monster trembled, overwhelmed by fury. He cursed Xiao Chan again and again, vowing that one day he would slaughter every one of them. Xiao Chan rose to his feet and walked away at an unhurried pace. He said he was sparing Lord Water Monster only so he could enjoy the false hope of survival. Lord Water Monster fought to raise his head. He shouted that Xiao Chan dared to threaten him, even though he was the Western Lord chosen personally by the Demon Lord. He reminded Xiao Chan that low-ranking creatures like the Golden Man Lizard were nothing compared to someone of his status. Lord Birdman stepped forward and clarified the rules. He explained that the lords of the Great Tomb were forbidden from fighting one another directly. Only those who weren't lords could challenge a lord. He recounted how a 10th tier lord once tried to devour the territories of the others, and the Bone King sent someone immediately to erase him without hesitation. Birdman cautioned Xiao Chan that killing the Water Demon Lord would put him at the same risk. Xiao Chan nodded calmly, saying he understood the boundaries placed on him. But he promised that when the right moment arrived, the water demons would die in utter despair. Then, staring down at the helpless Lord Water Monster, he added, it was time for the Northern Lord to experience regret as well. Xiao Chan planned to wipe out every unaligned, masterless creature in one swift sweep so none of them could betray him when the Great War finally erupted. Before long, Xiao Chan, Lord Birdman, and the rest of their group set off toward the Northern Territory. A soft, glowing red magic circle surrounded them. As soon as they crossed into the northern region, icy air rushed toward them. But the protective red barrier kept everyone perfectly warm. Xiao Chan's companions sighed with relief, noting that the magic tool really did its job. Even in this freezing land, they couldn't feel the cold at all. Lord Birdman then asked how many magic tools Xiao Chan had gotten from the dwarves. Xiao Chan replied that he had received exactly what he needed. He lifted a red, star-shaped artifact that shimmered faintly in his hand, proof that he was prepared for whatever lay ahead. The item he held was known as the Heart of Apollo, a world-class magic tool capable of producing heat as intense as the sun. Its temperature could reach thousands of degrees, yet it could be adjusted at will. Anything within a 10-meter radius of the Heart of Apollo would melt instantly from the heat it generated. This was the true power of the glowing red star Xiao Chan carried. With that protection, they pressed farther into the northern lands. The region stretched endlessly, a vast desert of white snow and solid ice. Somewhere out there lived the Northern Lord, isolated, hidden, and rarely seen. Lord Birdman wondered aloud how they were supposed to locate him in such an enormous wilderness. One of the wiser members of the group stepped forward confidently, insisting he had his own methods. Before anyone could question him further, Xiao Chan activated one of his abilities and summoned a monster. They halted as the ground ahead began rumbling. Moments later, several creatures burst out of the snow. Someone pointed toward the figures emerging. A fox-like beast, 2 rabbit-like creatures, and a small mouse-like one. All of them stared intently at Xiao Chan's group, especially at the goblins gathered behind them. Lord Birdman watched in amazement, remarking that wherever Xiao Chan went, monsters appeared without fail. All they had to do was wait, and the creatures would reveal what they needed to know. While they waited, a tiny glowing fairy drifted gently into view. She hovered in the air, illuminating the snow around her, and approached Xiao Chan. Introducing herself as Snow Spirit, she said she knew the whereabouts of the red-haired yeti. Xiao Chan focused on her as Snow Spirit landed delicately on the hand of one of his wives. They leaned closer, studying the little creature. The Snow Spirit explained that the red-haired yeti was hiding inside a nearby cave, and she offered to guide them there. Upon hearing her words, Xiao Chan smiled, realizing their journey had just become much simpler. He said he couldn't wait to move forward. And the group pushed on across the snowy terrain, guided by the Snow Spirit's soft glow. The wind picked up as they advanced, whipping against their bodies and filling the air with icy mist. They searched through the thick layers of snow, hoping to find the entrance to the cave where the red-haired yeti lived. One of Xiao Chan's wives gently lifted the Snow Spirit closer and asked how she had ended up so badly injured. The Snow Spirit's voice was delicate and quiet, yet the pain beneath it was unmistakable. She revealed that snow fairies like herself had long been enslaved by the red-haired yeti, the ruler of this frozen land. Each fairy carried a natural stone within their bodies, born from months-long blizzards, allowing them to create magical snow crystals. Any monster that consumed these crystals gained strength rapidly, making them incredibly valuable. Because of this, the red-haired yeti forced the fairies to produce crystals without rest. For decades, they had been tortured, overworked, and never allowed peace, even when a fairy died from exhaustion. Her wounds were the result of endless abuse, fatigue, and forced labor. Xiao Chan listened carefully and immediately recognized how precious the crystals were. He remarked that snow crystals were excellent for leveling up monsters. Hearing the cruelty the yeti had inflicted on the fairies only strengthened his resolve. He felt the creature deserved death, for everything he had done to them. With that conviction, they pushed forward until the cave entrance finally appeared. The opening was dark and deep, cold air rushing out like breath from a frozen giant. The group paused briefly to prepare themselves before stepping inside. The atmosphere changed at once. Silence surrounded them, broken only by the occasional drip of melting ice. As they ventured deeper, one of Xiao Chan's wives called into the darkness, challenging the red-haired yeti directly. She ordered the little bug to come out immediately, promising to beat him again, and warning that this time she would beat him to death. Her voice echoed boldly through the cave, fearless and sharp, ready to confront the monster that had tormented the snow fairies for so many years. Deeper inside, their eyes fell upon a beast covered in thick red fur, appearing ferocious and unkempt as it crouched low to the ground. Its muscles rippled beneath the matted coat as it hunched over, its breath forming clouds in the cold air. In its grasp was a snow elf, slender and trembling, whose icy blue eyes widened in terror. The creature growled, a low, guttural sound that vibrated through the cavern walls. "Even if you return from death, I will strike you down again and again until you are gone forever," it snarled, each word dripping with malice. Just as it uttered the threat, the creature's grip tightened, veins standing out along its powerful forearms. But before it could act further, an arrow suddenly pierced its hand. The projectile whistled sharply through the air, embedding itself with a sickening thud. The monster screamed in agony, a deafening roar that shook the cavern, and dropped. The snow elf immediately, who stumbled but managed to stay on her feet. Sensing approaching intruders, the crimson-furred snow monster slowly pivoted, its head toward the cavern's entrance. Its cold white eyes gleamed in the dim light, reflecting a sharp, calculating intelligence that belied its bestial form. It sniffed the air, nostrils flaring, as if measuring the strength of its opponents before deciding on its next move. The stench of rotting corpses mingled with the creature's own nauseating smell, assaulting everyone's senses and making their stomachs churn. At the cave's opening, Lin Tian's team stood ready to confront the monster. Each member tensed, fists clenched, muscles coiled like springs. Laya, her hand still raised from releasing the arrow, let out a quiet breath, her eyes narrowing with determination. "Who dares trespass in my territory? How dare you defile my domain?" The creature's icy voice reverberated through the cavern, a chilling resonance that seemed to seep into the very walls, filling the snow elf with paralyzing fear. Her knees trembled, and she took a half step back. But the team's presence gave her a faint glimmer of hope. Lin Tian ignored the enraged red-furred monster. He turned instead toward the snow elf, his expression gentle and calm, like sunlight piercing a stormy sky. "Is this the one you wish removed? If I take care of him, will you come with me?" His voice was soft yet firm, carrying an unspoken promise of safety and understanding. The snow elf nodded vigorously, signaling she would follow Lin Tian, provided he did not mistreat her as the red-furred snow monster had. Relief and caution danced across her delicate features, her trust fragile but emerging. At that instant, the red-furred snow monster caught sight of the snow elf perched upon Laya's shoulder. Its crimson eyes widened in fury, and its roar shook icicles loose from the cavern ceiling. "You pitiful little creature. After all I have done raising you, is this your gratitude? You actually dared to bring others here to confront me?" It lunged forward slightly, its clawed hands scraping deep grooves into the frozen floor as it braced itself for confrontation. As he ranted, the red-furred snow monster briefly froze when his eyes landed on Lin Tian's calm, unwavering gaze. A flicker of hesitation passed across its savage features, though it was quickly replaced by simmering rage. The tension thickened, almost tangible, as if the cavern itself was holding its breath, waiting for the storm to break. "I was wondering who it could possibly be. But it turns out it's you. You worthless creature. Look at you, flaunting your shiny new wings, gleaming under the cold, flickering light of the cave. They looked almost unreal, like a cruel mockery of what they once were. What happened to the old ones? Give them to me, I'll roast them and eat them. I'll savor every fragment as though it were a feast prepared for kings. There's no reason to waste anything. Every piece of you has value, even in death." Ha ha ha. The sound of his laughter cracked against the ice walls, chilling them more than the frozen air ever could. "What's with that look on your face? Do you honestly think those iron wings make you untouchable? Foolish, naive, deluded. I've snapped your wings before. I can do it again without hesitation. And next time, perhaps I won't stop at the wings." "Quiet!" the bird shrieked, his voice like the clash of metal against stone, overflowing with rage, ready to launch himself at the snow monster in a storm of feathers and fury. But Lin Tian stepped forward, his presence steady and calm, halting him just in time. His hand was firm, unyielding, and somehow commanded attention without a word. The snow monster, seeing Lin Tian intervene, couldn't stop laughing. His scornful gaze swept over them like a freezing wind, sharp and merciless. The sound of his laughter echoed and shook the entire cave, causing loose icicles to tremble and fall like brittle shards of glass. Even the snow beneath their feet seemed to quake with fear. "You pitiful bird," he taunted, his voice dripping with mockery, each word cutting deeper than any blade. "Do you truly believe hiring this worthless goblin can challenge me? Ha ha ha." His laughter pierced the air again, hollow and mocking. "As far as I know, I never hurt your brain, though." The words hung in the cold air like a venomous promise. "Worthless." The snow monster roared, his fury erupting like a storm long trapped beneath the surface. He unleashed every magical artifact at his command. Gems glowed, runes flared, and blinding streams of destructive energy shot outward, straight and lethal, slicing the air with a sound that could make even mountains crumble. In an instant, the snow monster's body was shattered. Ice, bone, and magical essence exploded outward in a dazzling, terrifying display of power. Almost his entire upper torso was obliterated, reduced to fragments that scattered across the cave like deadly snowflakes caught in a gale. Even in destruction, there was a terrifying beauty to it, a grim reminder of the monster's strength. Lin Tian and his companions remained vigilant, eyes darting across the cave, bodies tense, ready for anything. They knew that taking down this snow monster would be far from simple. Every second was a test of courage, every movement a potential death sentence. They waited, hearts hammering, knowing the real battle had only just begun. As they had anticipated, the snow around them began to twist and gather. The air grew heavy, charged with a strange, otherworldly energy. Piece by piece, it reconstructed a brand new body for the snow monster, the fragments knitting together as if by a malevolent will of their own. A mocking voice filled the cave, echoing from every corner, every crevice. "Ha ha ha. Impressive. But is that all you've got? You haven't even left a scratch." His laughter shook the cave again, rattling the walls and stirring a cold wind that whipped around them like a vengeful spirit. "Do you finally understand?" he bellowed, the voice booming like thunder cracking through ice. "In this frozen realm, you cannot kill me. I am eternal. Here, I am a god." By now, the snow monster had fully regenerated, towering above them, flawless and unscathed. The sheer presence of his form seemed to warp the air around him, cold and magnificent, a perfect monument to his indestructibility. Every heartbeat of those standing before him felt heavy, weighed down by the overwhelming realization that they were confronting a force beyond reckoning. With a simple wave of his hand, he summoned a raging blizzard. Within moments, the cave was swallowed by a ferocious storm. Snow fell so thickly that nothing could be seen through the whiteout. The snow monster's triumphant laughter echoed through the storm. Its source was impossible to locate amidst the swirling snow. "I am the mightiest lord. Perish in my unending blizzard." As the storm approached, Alice dropped to the ground instinctively. She braced herself, ready to strike, before the snow monster could even make sense of the chaos. His body was shredded into pieces in an instant. Alice's movements were astonishingly smooth. She had expected him to have formidable defenses. Yet, to her surprise, cutting through him felt as effortless as slicing through a cake. Too easy. Far off, the red-furred snow monster began to reconstruct himself. His expression turned pale with sheer terror. What just happened? What was that overwhelming force? Even with his infinite ability to resurrect, he trembled uncontrollably. This was a fear that reached deep into his very soul. He never wanted to endure that sensation again. At that exact moment, Lin Tian boosted the power of the Apollo heart. The surrounding frost instantly melted, vanishing into the air. In the distance, the snow monster froze, paralyzed with dread. What is that thing? A sudden, icy sense of death crawled up its spine. Gobuthin, gifted with invisibility, locked onto his prey. Without hesitation, he struck, precise and deadly. With unerring accuracy, his void dagger shot forward, piercing straight into the heart of the snow monster and leaving a gaping wound. Once more, The snow monster collapsed lifelessly, unable to emit even a cry. Within its mind, panic raged like an unstoppable storm. What? What are these beings? This is my territory, isn't it? Fear and rage surged together as it unleashed a thunderous roar. This land belongs to me. I am the ruler of these frozen wastes. At that very instant, a predatory bird swooped down with lethal intent. Now it's my turn. I'll shred him to pieces a dozen times over. Though the snow monster could resurrect endlessly, its fragile form made each strike excruciating. The raptor became a whirlwind of motion, skimming over the icy surface with blinding speed. Its razor-edged wings cut through everything in their path, leaving no mercy behind. The wind roared violently, almost forming a mini tornado around them. Under this relentless onslaught, the snow monster fell repeatedly, its cries growing weaker with each strike. Help! I can't take this any longer. If you're so powerful, face me one-on-one, fools. This time, the snow monster did not rise immediately. The blizzard began to subside, and its body slumped helplessly across the ice. Each death pushed it closer to the brink of mental collapse. All right, leave this to me, Lin Tian said, his tone steady and unshakable. Torturing him like this won't be enough to end him. He gestured for everyone else to step back. Then, Lin Tian pushed the Apollo heart beyond its limits, cranking its energy to over 1,000 degrees. In an instant, a blazing inferno erupted, swallowing the snow monster entirely. The surrounding frost hissed and evaporated violently under the searing heat. Thick clouds of steam billowed upward, blanketing the battlefield. The ice didn't even have time to melt. It vanished, as if it had never existed. The snow monster slowly dissolved into a shapeless puddle on the ground, its once formidable form now nothing more than a formless, quivering mass. Jagged fragments of ice and clumps of frost fell away from its body, clattering softly against the frozen floor. As Lin Tian advanced, an unimaginable terror washed over the creature, its mind reeling in the face of absolute inevitability. True death was coming, complete annihilation, melting away into nothingness, leaving no trace of the being that had once roamed the snowy wilderness with such arrogance. Don't come any closer, I'll die. Stay back, I swear I'll die, the creature shrieked, voice cracking and echoing painfully through the cavern. It scrambled desperately, clawing at the air, trying to reconstruct its body as it crawled forward on hands and knees. But in its weakened state, its speed was pathetic, almost pitiful, as though every motion drew more agony than strength. The snow around it started to darken with the residue of its melting, staining the pristine white with despair. Emerging from the swirling white mist like a harbinger of doom, Lin Tian stepped forward relentlessly, each footfall silent, yet heavy with a weight that seemed to push down on the very air. You're fascinating, he said, coldly, his voice cutting through the mist like a blade. If I wasn't here to kill you, why would I even bother coming all this way? His eyes glinted with an almost clinical detachment, yet the aura surrounding him radiated an oppressive heat that seemed to sear through the icy fog, drawing the creature closer to its inevitable end. Panicked, the snow monster shouted, voice breaking, "You lunatic. It was just a small misunderstanding. There's no need to kill me. I am the Northern Lord. If you do this, the Lord Demon King will be furious." Its form trembled violently, fragments of ice and frost flaking off with every word, as though the act of speaking itself was accelerating its dissolution. Fear laced every syllable. Yet Lin Tian's steps never faltered, never wavered. Lin Tian ignored every frantic word and pressed on, his presence alone radiating a searing heat that made the air shimmer around him. The intense warmth scorched the snow monster, producing a loud, hissing sizzle that echoed like a chorus of whispers in the icy cave. Each movement of his limbs seemed to twist reality itself, warping the mist and snow into a haze that made the monster's cries even more desperate and unrecognizable. Its tortured screams echoed throughout the cave, bouncing off the frozen walls, reverberating like a chorus of agony. "Stop! Stop! I'm melting!" the creature screamed, clawing futilely at the cold stone beneath it. Its entire form began to collapse, losing definition, its once proud shape now a grotesque, oozing smear. Slowly, inexorably, it dripped downward, dissolving entirely, leaving behind nothing but a faint scent of frost and despair. The cavern seemed to exhale, a hollow silence following the end of the monster's tortured existence. And that brings this chapter to a close. The snow monster's terror, its desperate pleas, and its final dissolution leave a haunting void in the cave. But what shocking twists will the next chapter reveal? Will Lin Tian face an even greater threat? Or has his path only just begun? Drop your theories in the comments below. Give this chapter a rating out of 10. And don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time. Stay safe, and goodbye for now.